La séance du Conseil de sécurité tenue par visioconférence est ouverte. L'ordre du jour provisoire de la présente séance est menace contre la paix et la sécurité internationale. L'ordre du jour est adopté. Conformément à l'article 37 du règlement intérieur provisoire du Conseil, j'invite le représentant de l'Irak à participer à la présente séance. Il en est ainsi décidé. Conformément à l'article 39 du règlement intérieur du Conseil, j'invite M. Karim Ahmad Khan, conseiller spécial et chef de l'équipe d'enquêteurs créée par la résolution 2379 de l'année 2017 du Conseil de sécurité, à participer à la présente séance. Il en est ainsi décidé. Le Conseil de sécurité va maintenant aborder l'examen du point 2 de l'ordre du jour. J'attire l'attention des membres du Conseil sur la lettre datée du 11 mai 2020, adressée au président du Conseil de sécurité par le conseiller spécial et chef de l'équipe d'enquêteurs des Nations Unies, chargé de concourir à amener Daesh, État islamique d'Irak et du Levant, à répondre de ces crimes, publié sous la cote S-2020-386. Et je donne à présent la parole à Monsieur Karim Ahmed Khan.
Madam President and distinguished delegates, it is indeed an honor to present this fourth briefing of the United Nations investigative team to promote accountability for the crimes of Daesh. Last week, the 10th of June, we marked the 6th anniversary of the occupation of Mosul. 6 long years since Daesh misused a flag that proclaimed the unity of God to spread division, hatred, cruelty, and violence over Mosul and large swathes of territory that fell under its foul control. It was my honor in March of this year, just a couple of months back, to see the green shoots of recovery of real Mosul. And one evening I went to the University of Mosul, and there were about 300 people that were waiting to see me. They had heard that the United Nations investigative team was in town, and I was met by students, by parents, by old people, and by faculty. And I addressed them. And in the course of that address, I said, in the corner, we have an investigator who's part of our dedicated team looking at the crimes of Daesh in Mosul. And thereupon I saw a steady stream of people go up to this investigator in the corner to give their details. Some produced photographs of the missing, some produced evidence, some gave their details. And indeed, it was a very poignant scene to behold. And the dean of the university, who was sitting next to me, said, "This is hope. This is what hope looks like." So there was clearly a yearning for justice in Mosul that evening. By the end of the evening, 200 people had given their details to the team. And that yearning for justice is something that I've seen in every part of Iraq where I have been or members of the team have been. It is a yearning for justice that gave rise to UNITAD, and of course it is a mandate that we have to collectively achieve together. This period, these last 6 months, have been challenging by any measure. There's been security challenges of different sorts, and of course the global pandemic has befallen Iraq as it has every other country of the world. But despite these hurdles, the team has worked with really quite some imagination, quite some purpose to ensure that the momentum that had been gathering speed has not been lost. And they've done this by using latest technology to overcome some of the difficulties we face, by using technological advances and working really ever more closely with the Iraqi partners in government, in civil society, victim communities, and in the KRG. Innovation and partnership have, as far as possible, been our watchwords, not for any other reason as to ensure the most effective delivery of the mandate, and it's brought tangible results. In relation to the Sinjar investigations alone, in relation to a 3-month period, July to August 2014, we have, with the full support facilitated by Chief Justice Zaidan and the Iraqi judiciary, received 2 million call data records that allow us to geolocate both witnesses who have given accounts to see where they were, but also perpetrators to see where suspects were, who they spoke to in different periods of time. And we've used that technology with quite some success, not only in Sinjar, but also in relation to Camp Spiker, the massacre at Tikrit Air Cadet Academy. The great and indispensable relationship with the Iraqi judiciary has also proved dividends. They moved at our request very swiftly to preserve phone records from 2014 that otherwise would have been lost. And again, this may seem a small matter, but it really was of critical importance given the critical nature of cell site evidence, IMEI records, and that category of evidence. The Ministry of Defense, the Department of Military Intelligence and Military of Defense generally have given us access to physical items of evidence that were seized from Daesh members. Cell phones, hard drives, computers, and other electronic material that can be scrubbed for evidence in a way that preserves their hash values and facilitates its admissibility in courts. And we've done that in a way that we've also been training the Iraqi counterparts in some of the latest technology that we have access to. In terms of field work, 3D laser scanners, 4K drones, imagery has been used so that we can preserve crime scenes and represent it in 3D modeling, so that whether it's in Baghdad or Bartella or Berlin for that matter, this evidence can be put before judges so they can understand what took place, how it took place, and it can, in a very real sense, bring life to the accounts of witnesses and courageous survivors. One of the advantages really of COVID-19 is this necessity of using new technology. And I think we're going to keep using it more and more. We've rolled out, or we're rolling out an app, a mobile application that allows UNITAD to work and communicate directly with the survivor communities, whether they're in Iraq or in Australia or in Germany. They can actually give us their names and details securely. They can even update photographs and other material so that we can expedite our focused investigations to get results. The in-house team has been fabulous. They have coded themselves an evidence management system that really, I think, is in a category of its own. It allows investigators in the field to use cell phones and their laptops to upload evidence in real time that preserves their electronic signature, and it allows other investigators and other lawyers to see what is the latest material, and it can be accessed in the field. And that's been done all in-house, as I've said. As a result of these measures, Madam President and distinguished delegates, I am pleased to say that there's been really a quantum move forward in terms of investigations, and this new technology in many respects may, if it is harnessed properly and completely, it may be fair to say it represents a paradigm shift in investigations. In terms of Sinjar, which is our first focus of investigation, we have now identified 344 alleged perpetrators over 16 crime sites. We've done that by way of technology, testimonial evidence, video evidence, and evidence also from the exhumations that we have been assisting with, along with the Iraqi and KRG authorities. In terms of Camp Spiker, the massacre of unarmed air cadets 6 years ago, in fact, today marks the 6th anniversary of that very cruel massacre that we have all seen, many of us have seen. In relation to that, we have been able to categorize at least 7 types of international crimes that have been committed, and we have had excellent cooperation from the Iraqi Judicial Commission, who've also given us access to autopsy reports and other information so we can facilitate more in-depth investigations for that crime. And in relation to Mosul, in March, just before the movement restrictions were placed because of pandemic, we started, along with the Iraqi authorities, the Mass Graves Directorate, the Medical Legal Directorate, 2 exhumations of 2 mass graves in and around Mosul. What I'm hoping to be able to speak to in my next report is the legal characterization of the crimes that we have uncovered based upon independent investigations and forensic analysis. The legal characterization is important for many reasons, and we're hoping to build dossiers or case files that will also show the contextual elements of international crimes that can be used by Iraqi courts and also by any domestic system that is trying to ensure accountability for the crimes committed by Daesh. And as I said, it is my hope that I will elaborate on this in my next briefing. It really is critical that no one is left behind. And because of the generous extra budgetary contributions, particularly the United Kingdom and the United States, we've managed to expand our investigations from Sinjar, Mosul, and Tikrit to cover Kakai, Shabak, Turkmen, Christian, and Sunni communities. This is really essential. From my initial appointment, I had mentioned to all the different communities I interacted that every life matters and there is no hierarchy of victim. So these additional 2 investigative teams that we have now created from extra budgetary contributions allows us to fulfill that promise that all crimes against all communities that were targeted by Daesh will have independent investigations resources focused upon them. Throughout this period, and indeed since my appointment almost 2 years ago, I have readily emphasized the critical support of the government of Iraq. There would be no unanimous resolution, there would be no unity in the Council without Iraq's very eloquent and powerful support. That powerful support has manifested itself in terms of being the host country. Every movement we take in Iraq, our analysts and our investigations, our security is guaranteed and is assisted with by the government of Iraq, and that is really tremendously valued and important. The cooperation from the judges and from some of the ministries is excellent. But of course, victims and survivors want more. They want us to move faster, and they're right. And I'm convinced that I've had discussions over the last few days with the Prime Minister's office. This morning, I had the honour of speaking with the Foreign Minister as well, His Excellency Fawad Hussein. And I'm convinced that with the new government, with the administration of Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi, there is a new will to really deliver and accelerate and build upon the very good cooperation we've had from previous administrations. The National Coordinating Committee has been very important. It's mentioned in the terms of reference, and we have managed to recruit more Iraqis in this period since my last report, lawyers and investigators, and I'm hoping that will also continue going forward. I think of critical importance, the role of the National Coordinating Committee has been to facilitate and agree a very large digitization project that we have support from the European Union to digitize the different archives in the KRG and in the government of Iraq, so we can exploit the information that is there as effectively as possible to ensure there's no place to hide for those individuals of Daesh that have such palpable responsibility. And I think that's a very important project where the NCC is to be applauded for facilitating. The KRG cooperation has also been an essential part and an essential feature over this reporting period. This morning, I spoke to His Excellency the President, Najib Barzani, who again reiterated his enthusiastic support to the mandate and the imperative that collectively the Council, the KRG, the Government of Iraq, UNITAD and survivors, that we deliver on the promise that we've made to victims, that there is real accountability for the crimes that have been committed. But it is important to underline in a very vivid sense that the task of UNITAD is not simply to collect and preserve evidence and information, important though that is. It is not simply to be a memory of tragedy. Success in many respects is going to be defined by the evidence that we collect by way of independent investigations, feeding into independent and fair trials. It is that victims and survivors hunger for. They want the crimes that have been committed against them to be properly labelled as genocide or crimes against humanity or war crimes. I think 6 years on, they are waiting, and I am confident that hopefully we can move forward with more alacrity in this period. It was in April of this year that I submitted a strategy paper to the government, to the President and Prime Minister, outlining a clear roadmap about what can be done to ensure we get to that destination we all want to arrive at, namely prosecutions for genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. In this regard, the Council members will be aware perhaps that His Excellency Ibrahim Saleh had placed a bill before Parliament in about October, November, which would allow Iraq to domesticate international crimes. I think with common will, I hope this Iraqi law, it's an Iraqi-inspired law, can achieve cross-party consensus and can move forward so we can also feed into these cases. The spirit of partnership has to imbue and encompass every part of Iraq. I mentioned the government, I mentioned briefly survivors, but religious leaders have an immense part to play for many different reasons. And in my meetings with the leadership of the Catholic Church, the Chaladian community, the Christian Orthodox, the Sunni Council, the Shia community, the Kakai, and the Yazidi community, we have also emphasized that a common partnership is needed. And I was immensely pleased that with the assistance of His Excellency Under-Secretary General Adama Dieng, that we managed, the religious leaders found common ground to come together in the adoption of a landmark interfaith statement on the victims and survivors of Daesh crimes. And the important part of this really was not just their unanimous support for UNITAD, helpful and welcome though that was. It was the emphasis that victims and survivors of sexual or gender-based crimes, crimes affecting children, should not be stigmatized, that they have to be treated with kindness, and accountability in terms of proper fair trials is a right and something that all those religious leaders found common cause to espouse. I'm hoping moving forward that work will continue together with myself and Adama Dieng, Under Secretary General Adama Dieng, and the religious communities. NGOs are important. In the last couple of weeks, we've reached out to more than 50 NGOs. We've had roundtables on the 1st of June with Iraqi NGOs and also with international NGOs as well. So with that, let me end with the comment of the Dean at the University of Mosul and his words that this is what hope looks like, that this is hope. It is a heavy responsibility. It is a responsibility for us collectively not to disappoint the survivors who've endured more than they should ever have to endure. And it can only be done by the continued support that the Council members have given UNITAD, that Member States have given UNITAD in terms of political support, financial support, gratis personnel, and the government of Iraq has generously also provided. I think if we continue in that, with that ethos, this demand for accountability can be taken off the pages of a report and brought to life in the courtroom when judgments can be rendered that will stand the test of time. So thank you very much for this opportunity to present this fourth report.
Je remercie Monsieur Khan de son exposé. Et je donne maintenant la parole au représentant de l'Irak, Monsieur l'ambassadeur.
Is mute. Would you please unmute your microphone?
Madam President, thank you very much. First of all, let me offer our congratulations to France on its assumption of the presidency of the Security Council for the current month of June. And we'd like to thank Mr. Karim Khan, Special Advisor and Head of the International Investigation Team, for his briefing. And we remember these days with full pain and sorrow Daesh crimes when invaded Iraq 6 years ago this month. And we remember it with pride that we faced it with the unity of the Iraqi people and all of its institutions, and with the help of the international community to defeat the terrorism in Iraq and the world. We are reaching the end of the 2-year period of team's work. At a time, the families of the victims of ISIS are eager and look forward to tangible results. During this period, my government committed itself to cooperating with the international investigation team and provided all possible assistance through the competent Iraqi authorities to support the mandate of the investigation team's work based on the full respect of Iraq's sovereignty and its jurisdiction over the crimes committed on its territory and the right of its people, and dealing with the issue from purely legal angle to submit it exclusively to the Iraqi national courts and in accordance with the Iraqi law and its legislative philosophy, according to paragraph 5 of Security Council Resolution 237 of 2017. We also point the need for continuous coordination with the Iraqi government and its competent authorities, and to provide evidence to the relevant Iraqi authorities for completing the procedures of the administration of justice as quickly as possible. That justice must be rapid and fair to the victims of ISIS terrorist crimes to ensure that these terrorist organizations don't appear and return again, especially after its recent activity in some areas of Iraq. Accountability and ensuring that terrorists don't escape justice and provide criminal evidence to the Iraqi judiciary will send several important messages. First, it will reassurance the families of the victims of these crimes that amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by this brutal organization. Second message, is to ISIS that the hand of justice will reach these killers as enemies of humanity. And the third message is deterrence and thwarting plans by terrorists aimed at destabilizing international peace and security. And fourth message would be implementing Security Council Resolution 237 of 2017 and achieving its goals. Further, prolonging the investigation period will negatively affect the clarity of the evidence at criminal sites, and therefore the passage of time may lead to obliteration of many evidence or its disappearance, which obstructs the joint efforts of the investigative team's work and the Iraqi government in achieving justice for the victims of our people. Madam President, my country looks forward to change for a better post-ISIS era and heal the wounds of the past as quickly as possible, based on achieving justice under Iraqi sovereignty and jurisdiction. These wounds will heal only by revealing the perpetrators of these heinous crimes, not only perpetrated against Iraqis, but against all humanity, by bringing them to justice. Thank you very much, Madam President, for your attention.
Je remercie le représentant de l'Irak pour sa déclaration. Et nous voici donc arrivés au terme de la partie de cette séance qui est diffusée en direct. Et nous allons passer à la partie de consultation fermée. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'ambassadeur.